He says, before asking for more headcount and resources, teams must demonstrate why they cannot get what they want done using AI. I'm Andrei. I'm the CEO of Seldon.
And David. I'm a product designer at Teppy. What is your opinion on his memo? Did it serve Shopify or not?
Well, I mean, as we were just saying a second ago, I think we're going to see more of this. And I don't know if it serves Shopify per se. I don't even know if it serves the design community per se. But that's a little extreme.
Yeah.
However, he is doing what I think most companies are going to try to do, which is not get rid of people, but not add people unnecessarily. So it's almost like the AI part is an excuse, even though the AI part's not really ready to actually do it this way.
Yeah.
But at least he's hitting the issue head on. So he's not saying we're not using AI, and he's not saying we are, but he's doing it in a way that is kind of forcing the issue to understand where the threshold actually will be. But at least that's my take.
That begs the question, should AI serve quality or quantity?
I think here he's trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
As a CEO, he's like, I think this acknowledges that he doesn't know, but we're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to deal with it. So like it says, like using AI effectively is now a fundamental expectation of everyone at Shopify. That's again extreme, but it's forcing the issue. AI must be part of your GSD prototype phase. That part I do agree with. We will add AI usage questions to our performance and peer review questionnaire.
Yeah.
That one I don't agree with. That one sounds excessive.
I think so too. Yeah.
Basically, if you use AI poorly, you'll still get a 5 on your peer review. Is that what that means? I don't.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't. That's a weird one. I think peer reviews are silly, but that's just my point of view on that.
I think if the goal is to push AI inside the entire company and to kind of like set a new standard of like make sure like even if it's like if it builds a little bit anxiety in the workforce, like you better start thinking about how to use AI, then I think it's a good thing because it is inevitable. I mean, everything is changing.
I don't know if I agree it's a good thing. It is a thing. It does make progress going forward forced, which is fine. I just don't know if it's a good thing because again, like here it says like learning is self-directed, but share what you learned. So what if what somebody learned is bad?
But that's all learning, right?
Yeah, sure. But in this case, it's like show us how you did this. And then share it with everybody else. And then if we don't like you later on, we'll fire you, but we still gain the knowledge. I mean, that's like what companies do anyway. It's like, I get that. But the way it's like phrased, I don't know. So like the only one I agree with is the 5, which is before asking for more headcount. That one I think is an interesting one. The rest of these feel like overreach, but he's forcing the issue.
Yeah. I
don't know. We'll see. I mean, as somebody who's building, design tool, this obviously is good news for us.
Yeah.
At Seldon. I just don't know if this is going to backfire or not. I hope it doesn't.
We'll see.
Hope it self-corrects. Shopify's always done a pretty good job of self-correcting, so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, 2025 is not a year that will, it's going to surprise you more.
Yeah, right? across the board.
Across the board, yeah. So problems over pixels.
So given that, nice segue.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well played. Today's episode is about problems, not pixels. All right, so let's get into this. All right, so last time we were talking, Dave, you brought up the notion, I brought up the notion, you brought up the notion, one of us brought up the notion that since everything is changing, what's it going to change into and what kind of craftsmanship or culture or how's design going to work or whatever. And you've always brought up this idea, and everything you've done, by the way, ever since I've known you for 10 years now almost.
Yeah.
Ever since I've known you, you've always been more about what is the problem and how do you explore the problem space, not the solution space immediately. You've always been like that.
Yeah.
And so you brought up the notion that maybe we'll get back to problem solving and not pixel pushing.
Yeah.
So describe to me what that looks like to you.
Yeah. So I think backing up, I've always done that because I feel uncomfortable not knowing, and this is maybe a defect or something, but like I've always felt uncomfortable not completely understanding what I'm doing. There's some people that thrive on, I'll just start drawing. I need context. I need to understand the problem fully before I move into it. So I think that has always been my thing, but now I feel it's easier to actually get the right amount of time to pursue, to ask the 5 whys.
So why do you feel that?
Because the other
work,
that
sense?
Because the other work I can push away to AI a little bit more.
Sure. Okay. So the other work being what I think I've used this term, you've used this term, the other work being busy work.
Yeah.
Busy work is like maintaining things.
100%.
Redrawing something because a design change happened, like maintaining. It feels good to do busy work sometimes because it's just like mindless pixel pushing.
Yeah, 100%.
But at the end of the day, it likely is just busy work.
Yeah, and I think what this looks like in reality is that everywhere in every company that I've worked with, the problem is never completely defined when you start. Oftentimes because of a sense of urgency or because of a lack of resources, there's a vaguely defined problem. And oftentimes it's not even a problem. It's like, we need to do this. It's like, why? And I think now with the rise of AI, you can actually spend more time iterating through the why, figuring out like what the problem is way faster. So it doesn't have to be a bottleneck anymore. It can be, but that's why I'm saying it can be, because but also AI.
Well, what has to happen for it to actually work then?
People have to understand that it is important.
What's the
understanding the actual problem.
Right. Okay.
Because there's still a lot of I think companies or product teams out there that jump straight into solution mode.
Yeah. So talk to me about that. Like, where has it been when you've worked on something where you're allowed to explore the problem space versus dealing with the pixel pushing space? Where has the most impact then occurred? Like, what kind of things do you do then that makes it work?
I think first of all, I think as a designer, you oftentimes have a large quantity of insights and data and customer feedback available. It's just you have to go get it. I think that's the basic level that you need to get to. Once it's there, whenever someone puts a problem or a solution on your table, first thing you need to do is try to figure out like, okay, why are we doing this? And also kind of like delve into the context of the user's problem a little more. And now with AI, you can do that. Small example, we at Tabby have a large list of merchant feedback, user feedback from our customers. It's an undocumented table in Notion filled with thousands of rows. Have fun trying to get the actual problem out there.
Right.
With AI, it's super easy.
Yeah. So So how do you do that? What do you like to have to? Do you have a custom tool? Do you just prompt it and feed it the data?
Yeah. The Notion has an AI summary, so it's just like find me stuff that resembles this, and give it back to me.
Okay, but you still have to kind of probe what this is. You have to kind of give it a little bit of a hint of what you're looking for.
I still have to direct AI to.
It's not like magically doing it for you.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's a theme, like AI magically doing stuff that is companies overselling what AI can do.
Yeah, so that gets to this point here. So I'm looking at this article that Macho gave to us. This one is called How AI is Influencing Today's Design Workflows. Yeah. And this one's by Sunit Singh. We'll share the link on that in the show notes. But in here, he was talking to one of his interns or one of his design leads, and he was asking questions. And one of the sections, to your point, is like where overpromising AI tools falls short. Yeah. And he basically said, if you give an intern a very high-level brief saying, hey, design an app for food delivery, that person is going to think on its own and design a food delivery app. That can be great in and of itself, but it won't be in line with what you want or what the business wants. Yeah. And the reason for that is because it's the same principle applies to AI. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with a human or with AI. He says, and I quote, if you feed it shallow inputs, you'll get superficial outputs.
Shit in, shit out.
Exactly. And that is exactly the point here. I think a lot of people forget that you can't just feed it stuff. Yeah. You have to feed it high quality stuff, and then you also have to direct it. If you do that, that's when you start to get utility and usefulness. Yeah. Because then you're still involved. And also, quite frankly, you have to make a judgment call about its output. Yeah. So the whole thing about feeding it shallow inputs, I think is super, super interesting here.
Yeah. And I think one practical thing that I've learned is that if you understand and if you know that the problems that your customers are facing are, in the end, going to feed into the context of an LLM, while you're interviewing a customer, you can already start prepping your notes in a way that makes it easier for the LLM to understand what you're actually trying to do. So I oftentimes took scrappy notes because I was going to be the one to convert those into insights used in the early design phase. But now, to his point, if I feed that into the LLM, oftentimes my notes would be too shallow. So I have to add more context to the notes, because otherwise the LLM is going to come up with things that I might not have intended.
So this is interesting. Let's just go back to another point then about this. So it's about problems, not pixels.
Yeah.
So to your point, you believe that the AI will help us with the busy work, which is the pixel part.
Yeah.
But you also believe then that when it comes to the problem space, how you start to use the AI to help you explore the problem space is a new thing to kind of tap into. So that's the other thing that we have to get into.
Yeah.
So what kind of things would you like to see? What's the future look like 5 years from now? What kind of tools do you get that allow you to explore problem space?
Well, I've been fantasizing about this AI research tool where I think someone in some of the articles they talk about like AI personas, like a very detailed crafted description of a target audience for your product. I've been fantasizing about like a giant research tool that exists both of a very detailed description of your users, number one, because I think that's where personas fall flat. So they try to compress everything into one. I think we have a large range of consumers. And then when you're in this like problem definition space, you're trying to like creatively try to figure out like, hey, is this a solution that will work for the problem? You can just feed that problem to your AI research tool, and it would get back to you with like, hey, like this would work for this audience. It wouldn't work for this audience.
So what immediately comes to mind for me when you talk like this, this is kind of a side note. Everything for me is either sports or video games, right?
Yeah.
So this is a video game one.
Yeah.
So like in video games, they're talking about using AI for NPCs, non-player characters. So like when you play Warcraft or when you play like Call of Duty or like, Metal Gear Solid or whatever.
Yeah.
All the characters you interact with actually have meaningful conversations with you because they're LLM-driven.
Yeah.
This is going to melt hardware beyond belief to get this working, I think. But it's almost to me like if you just basically want an NPC, like you want to feed it some ideas and then have the NPC respond to you in a way that you can actually measure. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I think not only in product design but also in brand design, there's this notion of you create a brand personality or even like a product personality, which is like a user personalized. It could be an actual person, and you have that person with you in the room when you make decisions.
Yeah. So I don't know this for a fact, but I would imagine in South Korea, Japan, and in places in China, they're already doing this with their robots. I imagine. They're turning their robots into like NPC style AIs.
Maybe next time we can put like an AI on the other side of the table and it just responds to whatever bullshit we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one kind of tool. What other kinds of tools do you imagine that would help change this process or allow you to explore the problem space?
So we're still talking about the problem space, right?
I think so. I mean, I'd like to dig a little bit more into like what this means and and what we see happening.
What do you feel is like the beginning and the end of the problem stage of the design process?
So for me, I tend to be a little bit more boring in the stuff that I want to explore. So the stuff I want to explore tends to be with like what kind of devices they have, what kind of like physical environments are they in, what kind of context are they aware of. Because like, building something for a phone versus building something for a laptop versus building something when you've got like 5 kids bugging you versus building something when you've got, headphones on in a subway. All these kinds of technical pieces I always like to latch onto because they're very fixed. Yeah. They're not as fluid as somebody's emotions or somebody's, personality and things like that. So that's what I tend to focus on. It's not the best thing in the world to do, but it's just like where I always fall. Yeah. So for me, exploring the problem space for me would be about really understanding where the min-max. So if you have a slider or a lever, where's the min, where's the max? And then where's the normalization curve on those? Where is the majority of the people on these things? Yeah. One of the first problems I always have when I do redesigns is knowing where the technology min-max is. That's an easy one to figure out if you have LLMs to help you scope that complexity. But then the real one is like where are I need histograms. I need like to know where the majority of things are, what the majority of the audience is dealing with. Because for me, practically, if they can't even like see it, read it, or hear it, then no other amount of like design in that thing works. So that's just me. So I know we can do this already, but I want the LLMs to really give me, to your point about giving it a solution. I actually want it to give me how long things take, and where's the sweet spot to aim a piece of technology at in terms of the audience and the customers.
So you want to understand the heft, the 80-20 of the problem that
to me, the point is that you can actually get past 80-20 if AI can help you do this. If you get past 80-20, what you really get is what's the actual target? Where is the sweet spot of all these different pieces? I tend to find if you know what those are, you can make a lot of the design decisions that should be easy. You can make those really quick, and then you can spend more time on the problem space stuff that you talk about, which is like, why are we doing this? What do they think about this? Does this actually feel right to them? Because once you get the knowns, if you can do that really fast, then you can spend a lot more time on the unknowns or the parts that you need to explore. That's been my experience. And my experience has been that most companies will not let you or will not give you hard targets around these things. So people thrash and waste a lot of time on something that won't even display on a phone, for example. And then we run into that problem. Maybe that's a problem that's going away now in general because everything's up-leveled so much. But
everything's changing.
Everything's changing.
I like I think a video game reference, like Fog of War. I like to think the problem, like Double Diamond, like the problem space and the solution space of a design process is very, first you kind of get rid of the fog of war. So you get rid, like if you know any of these like strategy games, like first you go into the unknown and then you figure out what the map looks like.
Right.
So, and then once you figure out what the map looks like, then you start thinking about okay, where should I position myself on this map in a video game? And I think with AI, that first exploring phase is almost as if you have not just one character to explore that map, but 6 or 7 or 8. And then how I practically would do that, for instance, is we at Tabby have been exploring new areas that I don't know anything about because it's a completely new area. I do a couple of deep research prompts with either Perplexity or with ChatGPT, basically asking me do a meta study on this topic, do a meta study on the result, which is a meta study, and then you get a prompt that is insanely big. You put that in Notebook LLM, and then you create a podcast out of that, and then when you're on the train or you have some downtime, you just listen to that podcast.
Oh, wow.
And you get an insane amount of information in a format that you can actually absorb. Because, I mean, I know what about you, but I'm not going to read 17 pages of research paper. That's just bullshit.
It can be.
The attention span is just I don't have it. So, but this way, at least, while I'm listening, I'm sparking my creativity. And at the end of this hour-long podcast, I actually have way more context about the problem space that I'm working in.
So that makes sense. I actually like that. So you should put that process down in the notes for this episode. I actually want to try that myself.
I'll add some prompts in the note to kind of
it reminds me of an idea I wanted to do about 20 years ago, I think at this point. In 2007, 2008, it was never going to happen. But fantasy football, fantasy games, all that kind of stuff. What I wanted to do is I wanted to have you be able to analyze your team and then go to ESPN or all the different sports channels and then find clips that matched your team and then create the update for your team using all the sports clips because you have a player on different teams, so you don't need to follow the team, you need to follow the player. Anyway, that's a total side note. Okay. So let's get back to it's about problems, not pixels. How do you know, or where do you think the decision-making part is going to change if we do have more time to explore problem spaces, or if we have AI helping us explore problem spaces? So at what point does it become a helpful decision-making tool versus the paradox of choice problem, which is you've got too much information?
I think AI will help you limit or make it easier for you to make the decision, but the decision, I think it's going to be more important actually for a human to be involved in the decision making. Because AI is very good at pattern matching, so it's very good at trying to find the most a generic solid 7 or 8. Maybe it's a little bit a solid C. Would you say in the States?
C is average,
Yeah, a solid C. But I think a human is and I think that's the baseline. That should be the baseline. And then I think a human should be be able
plus
to
or
B
higher.
plus or higher. Because like an AI only has the context that you give it, and there's always more context inside an expert.
So then circling back to what we started the banter we started with the podcast, which is with Toby's memo to Shopify, that's kind of like what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's kind of saying like, you need to get in there and use these tools and then make the calls.
Yeah.
And then we need to learn from you on how you do it, blah, blah, blah. And
it's an investment in yourself, right?
Yeah, and I don't want you to hire 20 interns to do this. I want you to use one AI to do all that work.
Yeah. And I think that's the interesting part, because it allows you to actually do more of the work that maybe you haven't done so much, because you actually you never got to that point where you had to, think about like, okay, this is good enough. Again, to your point, 80-20. But like we're not aiming for that anymore, because now we don't have to.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me a little bit of what I used to do with my studios, where I was always tell people like, what's the timeline? And they'll say like, okay, well, I'll give you a year. And I'll say, great. 11 months of that year, I want to be exploring. And then the last month I'll do the design.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, why don't you do the design in the first month or two? I'm like, because I don't know what I'm doing yet. I don't need to spend a lot of time drawing or rendering the UI. I need to spend a lot of time exploring the problem space.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like maybe a stronger means to even get to that level, because a lot of people want you to do the work in 1 week cycles or 3 week cycles or whatever that is, which is insane to me. Yeah. Like all the work I did on the Creative Suite back in the day, we did it in 14 to 16 months. And so a lot of the time was spent exploring. So maybe this will be an opportunity for that to finally occur for the general audience is, you don't need a lot of time to build it. You need a lot of time to figure out what you're building. Yeah. Because to build it is going to become so standardized and or not so standardized, but standardized in such a way that you don't need the 6 months to do it. You'll need 1 month, and you can spend the 90% of the time actually figuring out what the hell you're trying to build. Yeah.
I think this, like for the speed of development, I think this will make a lot of sense. It's kind of like this saying where they say like, if you have 3 hours to chop wood, you spend at least 2 hours sharpening your axe, kind of thing, right? Yeah. And I think moving from problem space into like ideation phase, I think that's where AI becomes even more interesting.
See those as the same thing?
Well, I think in a kind of like traditional double diamond.
This is where you and I are definitely different. I tend to see them as the same thing, but you like to really know a lot more, read up a lot more, know the material a lot more before you get into it. Yeah. You're the kind of, if you were an actor in theater, you would like want to know all your lines, and then you would improv and riff in the moment if you had to. Whereas me, I'd be like, I just want to improv and riff while I'm doing this.
and I still feel that there's a lot of experimentation happening in that first phase. But then in my mind,
it's a different way of experimenting.
Yeah.
I don't mean to imply that's bad. No. I'm just pointing out like it's just a different. You are like you. I know you. You like to really know stuff.
Yeah, I'm more like process oriented in that sense that you like think about like a chef making a new dish. It's like I first want to like lay out all the ingredients, understand what all the ingredients are. Mm-hmm. Understand how to chop an onion and what effect it has on actually doing things. And you might be more like, I'm going to chop the onion, put it in the pan, and then if it's shit, I'll just start over again.
Well, not only just that, is that I find the challenge of timing it properly without knowing fully yet kind of fun. Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, when you watch all the pro chef shows, they're like, prep your ingredients, get them all ready, know where everything is, have all your pans out, blah blah blah. I'm like, well,
Yeah, and I think as you get like more experienced, you at some point you don't have to do these things anymore. But especially for like new problem areas, I like to. It's just like with the like. I think there's a difference. Again, to the cooking analogy, you have people that the first time they have a recipe, they just like are freestyling during like, he's like, a pinch of salt. I'll just do 2 pinches of salt. Yeah. Or like, I'm going to add some more paprika because I think that's good. For me, it's like, I'll do the ingredient, the full recipe first, exactly as mentioned. Then afterwards, I'm like, okay, what does this taste like? And then the next time I'll just start freestyling.
Most importantly, you want to be able to have the options of knowing or not knowing. You want to be in control of that. You don't want to have to like do it on the fly.
Yeah. But this is a personal thing. Yeah.
So let's end this topic then with a little bit of a heavy note here. Maybe it's not too heavy. I don't know. But Kenneth, I've known for quite a while. He was on my team at Twitter and whatnot. He's been doing a lot of ethics and design. Yeah. He has an article here called Designing with Context. So what were your thoughts on his notions of context being a slippery slope and how we deal with the stereotypes of context. I think this gets a little bit at what you were saying about having a range of roles or a range of personas. But I'm curious what you think about his notion of context.
Yeah. I think dialing back to like the shit in, shit out, or I think some other article mentioned, maybe this is this article actually, where it's like AI is a very direction hungry assistant, that it will, if like the less context an AI has, the more generic and the more it's going to be okay. So for a lot of people, it's going to, oh, this looks great. It does, because it's an average, and an average, like a C average, it's still okay. But I think the more time you spend on the context, and I was watching a podcast, a prompt engineering podcast from Anthropic about this, and they were basically saying like, prompt engineering, just like writing prompts for an AI, is like, it's almost like an art form in itself.
Right.
It's like, how do you, like, what are the things that you do include? What are the things you don't include? Like, it's never, and this is the overpromise, and this is the marketing stuff, what you see online. It's like, oh, there's just a simple prompt, like build me an online web shop, and it just builds something. Great for marketing, but that's not actually how it works. Actually, how it works is that you write one gigantic prompt, and then you start refining with context.
This article is interesting, and we'll post a link to it as well again. But he has these like 7 principles for context. Yeah. Things like location, device, let's see, what's another good one? Individual context, activity context, etc. You can read that on there. But at the end of it, he gets into this notion of, if you start using these things, the issue is going to be that context is multifaceted, to your point about like, the spread of things, but don't penalize people for their contexts.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be one of those things where, like, for example, if you wanted to use this and generate a tool out of this, let's say you make a research tool using LLMs that provide these like 7 axes for context, you then have to be careful to not have that become stagnant, basically. So he talks about not getting stagnant. So you have to allow adaptability and revisit your decisions all the time. So we run into this issue where one thing that might happen is that we will be able to have new research techniques and new ways of doing something that was really difficult before, like this context concept, designing with context and being ethical about it. Yeah. But if the LLMs are so good at it, we then have to be careful not to let us form a new bubble or form a new laziness around it. Yeah. To some degree. I don't know how you handle that problem. I'm just pointing it out, but it's an interesting thing to take a look at.
I think 2 points. One is, I'm looking at my notes. I think one is that we as designers are more going from designing the product to designing the underlying rules, so that we take a step back, and this means like we're designing an adaptable system. That means that the product we design can change based on the user's preference, all these context principles that he's talking about. And I think the second thing about this is a wish, and I think you are building a design tool, an AI tool.
Yes.
What I would love, which is something that I actually, unfortunately now pay multiple subscriptions to LLMs for, is I want to basically just like have an idea and then say to an LLM, go explore 3 different variations of this idea for me.
So you will be able to do that. Yeah. Let me slow down. You will be able to do that. The thing I fear, though, is that I don't want that to become a crutch. I don't want that to become, because again, the way you do that, I want to make sure that the thing is constantly reworking with new data, because people get older, new people come into being adults, and so you want the shape of the trend and the shape of the context to kind of flow with that. Yeah. And so whenever you're doing the thing that you said, give me some variations, which we can do. We have to find a way to make sure that those variations are modern, fresh, keeping up with new data, keeping up with the evolution of how things go. That's going to be a challenge for us. Yeah. So that's my biggest fear, is like, getting stuck in a data set that is going to then force, stagnation. Yeah. So anyway, that's a Seldon problem. That's not a you problem.
Yeah. No, I think to that point, and I think I'd love to go back to the designing the underlying rules. What I feel now that a lot of like AI-driven design, whether that's like in the early stages or the later stage, whether it's like problem solving or exploring ideas, it's very linear.
Yes, it is very linear now.
I think now that you have an LLM, it's like you free up space, and I think like, people don't think. I think creative people don't think in linear fashion.
Well, also, it's not just about linear fashion. It's about being able to branch off whenever you want.
Yeah.
It's like, exploring a new idea at the point that you need to or can,
Yeah.
and then revisiting it and then reintegrating it and then seeing what that does.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're sampling music, right? When you make a sample and then when you put it with all the other samples and you hear the combination, you can revisit other things and tweak those and sculpting it.
You can kind of do it like with V0. You can kind of like fork an idea and then like start exploring. So you start.
Got to be able to reintegrate it.
But then how do you get?
Yeah, you have to be able to reintegrate.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if they actually at some point figure out how to handle conceptual merge conflicts. Yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there. Cool. Okay, well let's wrap this up a little bit here. Let's just kind of give ourselves a little bit here. So it's about problems, not pixels.
Yeah.
The hope is that these AI tools will both do more of the pixel busy work for us to free us up for exploration of the problem space, and that we'll see new tools from AI, LLMs, and other things to find different ways of exploring the problem space.
Yeah.
What are you most hopeful about given that context or given that setup? Where do you see being the best case scenario in 2 to 5 years?
I think first is democratizing design. Like I think it's scary for designers to give off some of that exploration or that like understanding the problem because we feel that that's our area of expertise and we should do it because otherwise people are going to take our jobs. I think it just levels the playing field if everyone can do it, which means like product managers, engineers, like everyone in the company can start doing these things. So that's one. I think the second thing is I'd like to move to a tool where everything just comes together, if you know what I mean. Like right now, it's like I have a chat that has explored this to the point of like branching it. I have an exploration in V0 doing this. It's like I want to bring it all together, and I want to be able to.
But this is the same problem as like the mythical email problem. It's like everything reverts to email at some point. Like now we have like 6 tools, and they're all doing a form of messaging and email. Yeah, having the one tool.
And you, what do you think?
I actually think what you said is something that I would like to see. What I really am most hopeful about is that we're going to start to see what I would call more analog input. So for me, democratization of design is definitely a part of it. But what I want to see is like, let's say you're a content creator. You're somebody on YouTube who makes like, I don't know, I watch this guy, Rob Words. He's like a language guy. He's he's always about like origin of words, like, the interesting stories about how words came about, blah, blah, blah. Interesting guy. He's beholden to YouTube.
Yeah.
But what if he could, find his own ways of making digital experiences from his own content?
Yeah.
That's what I think is going to be cool. So like, I don't know what that looks like yet. Maybe he uses a tool like ours or part of it, but the AI tools are going to start making it possible for people to find new ways of using all kinds of inputs to create the digital experiences that they want and then have control of going outside. So I don't know what the experiences look like yet. Right now we're stuck on things like, YouTube or Shopify for e-commerce or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be their own platforms, but at minimum, unique inputs are going to be interesting. Like, how can I use these new tools to help me? Like, rather than asking it to make 3 variations, like, okay, here's my podcasts, here's my videos, here's my data that I use, here's the things I've written, here's me. Help me figure out ways of organizing all of this stuff into an output that I actually find that is in line with my brand, my personal brand, if I'm a content creator. Stuff like that. I don't know. But I do believe that within 5 years, we're going to start to see the beginnings of those things.
Yeah.
So what we're building at Seldon is to help baseline the component model. Because when you have the baseline component model, you don't have to have the AI writing the button code. You don't have to do that stuff. You can then focus your attention on what interesting ways can I do it. And I personally don't believe prompt engineering is going to be it.
No.
Personally.
I think
it'll be an aspect of it. But
I think we're going to move into a new UI paradigm.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what that means, I don't know yet.
I don't either.
I mean, I liked what you said last time about like going more analog.
Yeah.
Or like, because I think right now we can, but I don't know if that's a...
And when I say analog, I should just preface it by saying human generated input.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like a podcast that's digital is still to me analog because I made it.
Yeah.
Like something like that. Like this is us talking.
Yeah.
So this is our content, us speaking our opinions. That's the analog thing, even though it's in digital form.
Yeah. And it goes back to the discussion we had last time about the progression of UI, and that the first computers were on a location. You had to have like the money to actually be in that location,
Yep.
and you had to have the college degree to understand how to work with that thing, and you go there, you do your stuff, you wait, and then the next day, tomorrow, you come back for the result. Mm-hmm. Up until now, where we're going towards, I just do what I do, and the computer understands me so much more, and it not only does what I want it to do, but more.
Yeah.
And what that means, I don't know yet, but I think that's.
But I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
that's definitely true. So cool. All right. Well, this has been another interesting episode. We're still getting our sea legs, as it were, about how to do these things. One thing I actually want to do for the next podcast, we'll talk about it later, but this whole memo from Toby, like this whole thing about headcount.
Yeah.
Headcount and resources.
Yeah.
Will heads roll?
Yeah.
Or is headcount, what's going to happen with headcount?
Maybe a good question for the audience is, do you feel your job is on the line?
Yeah, exactly. That would be great. Please give us comments about the things you've heard us talk about. What do you see happening with the problem space, and how to explore it? And what do you see about these notions of, is AI going to take your job, or is it going to help you in your job? Or what are your executives asking of you, or whatever your peers asking of you?
Exactly.
All those kinds of things would be super useful for us. But yeah, until next time, right?
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thanks for having me.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.